Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you to yet another episode of the B.ED and Bonkers show. On Saturdays and Sundays, check every inch of the web to find the latest episodes. The boys are everywhere, and no matter what anyone may try, they are here to stay. If the name hasn't warned you yet, then consider this as your viewer discretion advised. No one can restrain these two idiots, so here they come unleashed upon the world, only to become as insane as reality itself.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, tonight we have a very special guest joining us, psychic medium Patricia Hutchinson. She's quite the varied background from what I've been able to read up on her before coming on to the show. So,
was that like chimes in the background there? I can hear. Oh, I felt all mystical there. I thought I was getting a visitation from beyond.
The energies are around us.
Oh, I should probably put out my EMF meters then, just so I keep an eye on things.
I can feel it. I can feel the weirdness running about me now. It's kind of weird.
I know, right as the chimes started going off, they started getting a tingle in the air. So this should be interesting.
Raise the volume down. Yeah.
I've got spirits around me. I can feel them. So this has got to be an interesting night.
I can't hear them too well. Yeah.
Oh.
Just going to adjust the volume.
No problem.
Oh, that's better. Yeah, Christopher, because of the accent, it's hard to hear sometimes. Go ahead.
That's okay. It took my friend here about 5 months to figure out what I was saying. Just like that's it.
So don't feel bad. It took me like 3 months to understand what he was saying, and he still gets into moods where I'm just like, slow down. What'd you say?
I'll tell you this. The new one day,
I thought it was an age thing with me. That's why I just asked for help to raise the volume, but that's okay.
I get this all the time when we interview a lot of American guests and a lot of different guests that can't understand a single word that I'm saying.
Exactly.
Yeah, they all say they love the accent, but they can't understand a single thing that comes out of his mouth.
Yeah, especially down south, Louisiana and Georgia.
Oh yeah.
Florida even.
Yeah. We've actually got friends in Florida and here sometimes, and they can't understand a single thing that I say.
Sure. Oh yeah.
So, Patricia, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I guess the what do you call it, brass tacks of who I am in my bio is that I am somebody who does have abilities. I know there are quite a few. We all have psychic abilities. We're born with that. It's in our DNA. It's just to what degree. It's just like swimming. We all can swim, but we're not all Michael Phelps. We're not Olympians.
Yeah.
When I was very young, I had an encounter where my grandmother, who was very near and dear to me, and we lived with, because my dad, being the oldest son of 5, I believe it was, he took care of his mom. My grandfather died very young, so his job was to take care of his mother, and she lived with us and was extremely close to me in particular, well, to my sister as well, but I would say to me. When I was about 5 or 6, I believe it was, something in that arena, she passed away. I was the last person to see her because when my dad went to the hospital, she had already passed away. About 3 days after, and I was devastated. As a young girl, her bedroom was next to me. I used to sleep in her bedroom, in her bed a lot, and she was an exceedingly psychic woman. She would be considered a witch in today's standards, and she did both. I think when she liked you, she loved you, but when you did something wrong or harmed one of her family, she knew what to do to take care of you, if you will. Yeah. So, anyways, about 3 or 4 days after she passed away, I was asleep. I woke up. It was about 3 a.m, and I looked ahead and I saw her. And this is a very weird thing to describe because I'm not sure I have the exact picture. Maybe I'm saying it wrong, but it looked to me like it was almost a hologram. There was a freeway, a highway, no cars, nothing. On either side, desert. So no people, no cars, no mechanisms of any kind. And she was walking in the middle of the highway towards me. And as soon as I saw her, I jumped out of bed and I ran. But of course, it was a closet. But I could have sworn that I saw what I saw. Anyway, I went to grab her and she said, "No, you cannot touch me. You cannot touch me. I have not yet risen." So at that time, I didn't know that spirits actually hover after they pass away, and she did. But she had a message, and that was to take care of my dad. And of course, my dad had like a succession of heart attacks after that. Yeah. And so that was a warning of some kind. Now, I went to my mother to explain, the next morning to her what happened. And she took a dim view. She, being a staunch Catholic, she said, "It's all your imagination. You were dreaming." And I said, "I wasn't. I jumped out of bed. Oh, no, I saw it." And I told her what I saw. No. Never speak a word of this, especially to the nuns, because they'll cremate you, if they find out that, that this household and everything. Because at that time, the religious were visiting in our home, both the priest and the nuns. So that was the beginning. Now, when I've been on radio before for 10 years on the Beat, which is a very popular station in Vancouver. And I'm always asked, what was the sign? What was the signal? I always knew I was different from the other kids in school. I stood out like a sore thumb. I didn't tell them a lot. I remember a few times saying things, and when it was a prediction and it came true, most of my friends were terrified. How did you know that? And I had to soft pedal. I had to come up with something that did not sound like I was out of this orbit. But then as I grew up, I became very close to my uncle who opened up the UFO thing. And we talked about Love-Sang Rampa, 13th Candle, which is about ETs and about how, I don't have to get into it because you can just look it up. But that really opened the door. And ever since then, I have been extremely, I guess, intuitive is one way of looking at it, but I guess connected to the realms of light, or very connected to the spirit realm. I don't know how one would really say it, but in readings, that's what I do. I connect, and then I tell them what they need to hear. Yeah. So, that's in a nutshell.
See when you seen her on the highway, was there anything else? Was there anything when she was walking towards you on the highway? Was there anything either side? Was it just a road?
All I saw was, it looked to me at that time, from a 5-year-old perspective, to be concrete. There was a white line that divided the two lanes, and she was walking towards me. And it was almost like she was not walking, but she was actually drifting. Her feet were not on the ground. She was drifting toward me with this message. And this was something that has stuck with me for many, many years, because as a mature woman now, I do look back and I wonder, was that a hologram that was given to me just to sort of settle me down because I was so distraught? What was it? And it was comfort. It was love. It was warmth. So that was my first experience.
That's very interesting. That, I mean, what was the sky like maybe blue, or was the sky black, or would you say it was daytime?
No, it wasn't. It was like my surroundings. It was 3:00 in the morning. It was pitch dark, and she came out as a light towards me. She was moving towards me. Maybe it was the Merkaba, the spirit body. She was very evolved, so. Often the aura of somebody who's evolved does come through as luminescent white light.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very interesting you say it, because I don't know. I can see something. It's weird. It's weird, but I can see. Dakota, would you like to? It's I process this.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny you should say. You talk about kind of like the soul light, the Merkaba, because
Mm-hmm.
that's another topic that comes into UFO discussion quite a bit from what I've noticed, especially for races that are supposed to be particularly spiritual in nature. I mean, in some cases, people can compare them to like Jedi for, the Star Wars nerds out there.
Yes, yeah.
Have you noticed kind of an overlap when it comes to the UFO and spiritual phenomenon?
I'm probably not going to be answering your question satisfactorily, but I've asked the energies why I don't have an encounter. I'm looking all the time. I'm out there, when it's a clear sky at night, sometimes not being able to sleep well, I'll wake up and I'll be searching to see if I can see a light, because in BC, we're just very close to the Pacific. There have been sightings, and, I'm just shocked that I haven't. And I asked my system, which are the energies that give me the information that help people in readings, said your Merkaba, your spirit, your aura is too strong for them to come through.
Really?
I don't understand that, but that's what they said. They said your aura is just too strong to allow them to come in.
It's quite interesting that it's. So, what else does the spirits tell you? What else do the spirits tell you about what's around you and what's going on? Do they
We're living in it's an important time, and what they've told me is there's a reason for me incarnating at this time. And that is, before I incarnated, I sat down with a council of 12, and I tried to figure out what my mission was going to be here on the earth plane. And the message was, I'm here to make a difference, and I'm here to help people connect, and not be afraid to connect, so long as they're connecting with the right frequency, because that there are a lot of dark forces out there that are just, dying to have, to zap somebody who's a light server, a light worker, put them out of commission. But it's to bring hope, because I don't know if you have it in the parts of the world that you're at in Scotland and in Idaho, but the suicide rate is off the charts. And we have to be beacons or lighthouses. We've got to help these people, because I've tried to do what I can, and unfortunately I've been too late in some circumstances. But there's this hopelessness, and I think that's what people say, well, what's your mission? Well, it's to help. It's to help give them hope, or just offer them some sort of a, what do you call it? I was going to say ripcord, but it's not that. It's almost like a safety. It's like a buoy, like you're drowning and they throw you a safety jacket or something to help them realize, because we don't, to take one's life is a very serious matter, because remember, it's breaking a contract.
Yes.
It's not judging those that have found themselves in a position where they just, what's the point? They just can't go on or go forward, but it is breaking a contract.
Yes. I know they'll cross over, and then they'll probably have to come back again.
Absolutely.
And redo all of this. I mean, it's depression, I've noticed, to see it especially in the paranormal field. And the UFO field, depression. People that suffer for depression is absolutely terrible.
Oh, terrible, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it really
is. And abductees,
yes.
That Barney and Betty Hill, I think he took his life. Barney, the ones that, the missing hours. They were,
I know what you're talking about.
yeah,
I think I know what you're talking about.
a black man and a Caucasian
Sure.
lady that were married, and I think they were Buffalo. They were in Buffalo, New York, and they were coming into or going into Canada or something, and they were taken by, ETs that, and that is a legit case because
Yes.
she was able to draw, star patterns that she neither of them were educated, to that degree. Maybe she was a social worker, and he was just a postie, so he didn't really have the science. But she said that she didn't either. So they were able to draw star systems, and it baffled, astronomers. Because
it's
definitely very interesting. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, the Betty and Barney Hill case, that's so high profile that former President Barack Obama, he runs a production company now, and it's my understanding he's putting together a documentary about it for Netflix. So
that's right. Yeah, I've heard that.
And yet, when he was questioned by one of the hosts of late night television, he skirted the question. They asked him.
You can either confirm or deny that.
Yeah, no, he didn't. He was on the fence. He should have been like Jimmy Carter before, one of his platforms was, I'm going to open Project Blue Book. He didn't, but, the thing is, I guess pressure was on him. The Congress was just maybe too bright.
Well, it's my understanding that back when Truman was in office, he started Majestic, and they kind of went rogue.
Yeah,
they took over Area 51 and even implemented directives that included political leader assassination should something ever try to stop what they're doing.
It's like President Kennedy. There's meant to be documents out there where he had a speech where he was going to reveal to the world that the existence of little friends from beyond, and then something happened to him. Strange that, isn't it? I mean, I think the world we're in is controlled by a lot of powerful people and a lot of greedy people.
Well, look at John Mack. He was struck down, and they said, "Oh, it's just a hit and run, an accident." He was on the precipice of opening up all sorts of things. A Harvard graduate, a doctor, and
I think there's a lot of people that have just disappeared off the face of the earth that have wanted to talk. I mean, who was that guy that disappeared? It was out of Russia, was he? No, the one that was drawing all the stuff on his walls. He was like a psychic.
I thought that was
communications.
I thought that was out of France. The particular case you're talking about. But there is a Russian boy, Boris. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce his last name. Would be about the same age as me, but he was talking about civilizations on Mars that he used to be a part of. There was no war, but he just him and his mother just disappeared out of the blue. That people say he's still alive, but living very, very remote.
It's quite interesting that what you tell us at the start of the show about the road, the concrete road, because it stuck with me. I don't know. It's just something
very unusual. Greta Coates, I've heard of anything like that.
Honestly, do you know what I've got for you? She says, "How do you know that you've not already experienced the visitation from them?" And that's when you told me that
from the ETs.
Yeah. How do you know that was who she said she was? How do you not know it was them?
I don't know because I've told you that they said that my energy field is too strong, but what I failed to disclose is that when I was in my 20s, I was just married. I did have a visitation of two. They weren't Pleiadians. They were not Greys. They were very close to humanoid.
What did they look like? What did they look like?
They were both had spacesuits. Not almost to the body. Not reed thin like you see with in some cases with the aliens that are just skeletal. No, these were not. They were more, they could have been hybrids, but I don't know. I didn't see the faces because they kept the helmets on very close to the body, nothing bulky like, Apollo 13 or anything like that. These were like streamlined, suits, and they appeared they were in the room, the bedroom, and my husband was asleep. And I turned to see, if he could see what I was seeing, and he was frozen. He was frozen.
Yeah.
He was absolutely like, ketamine anesthesia. And
can you
they
remember
talked,
the colour of the suits? Because you can
it
usually
was
tell
a
who they are.
like a grayish metallic, because, no lights on, but, as best I could see, this was the early hour. Could have been 2 a.m. perhaps. But telepathically, I asked them, who are you? And they said, we are travelers, space travelers. They were neither friendly or hostile, but they scared me.
Yeah.
I was terrified. And I didn't have a very long encounter because I was so scared. I didn't know what to do. And the first thought was, do you know the Master Jesus, the Christ? And when I said that, one of them communicated to me, yes, we know him. And bang, they were gone.
That's
we know him or know of him, the Master Jesus, yeah. That was the only defense I had, because I didn't know what they were going to do. They were just standing there, one behind the other, or to the side at the edge of the bed, and it was like they were walking to the south part of the of the lot, in the room, that is. But that was one encounter that I had, and that scared me, and that was about it. Until I had another situation where it was a mantis that called himself Ragus. And I asked, where are you from? And he said, Regulus. And I said, what is your mission? What do you do here? And he said, we are scientists. And we are here to promote something. I don't know, growth or energy, or I don't know what. But what I got the sense with him was that everything about them was science. And I asked about, why are you connecting with me of all people? And he said, you would not be horrified, or you're accepting, or you're an empath, or you're compassion, you're empathy. And I said, well, that's interesting. How do you connect? You said, in this race, in this species, we have no emotion. We don't have any facility. It's just straight science. And that's about all I have from Regulus, or Ragus, rather. But, that, and it's just like Dakota mentioned, they're invisible. They can dematerialize. That's where,
they can just appear and disappear.
Well, this is it. There is a portal that they use, and they're scientists, so they know about the speed of light, about the speed of sound, the various colors that you go through to exceed the speed of light and sound. They're masters.
They're definitely masters.
The vibration of the body,
They're definitely masters. They can take someone out of a house without anyone noticing and then put them back again.
I agree. I think that is very possible. Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of people wonder, how is it possible that I'm getting abducted, but I've got security cameras and my doors are all locked and stuff, because they're just taking you through like solid walls and stuff like that. That's what they do.
Can dematerialize. Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you put your
We're integrated because we're in the 3D. We're flesh, but they've got that facility of mastery where they can go through dimensions. I don't know of too many people that have that gift, but certainly I don't. But I'm connected. I'm interested.
I think they're interested in you because you've got a lot of power in about you. Do you know that? I think, and this is weird. I don't know where this is coming from, but that is weird. I think your journey's just beginning.
It could be.
I think it's just beginning right now.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely open and interested, but we have to. This is why I love this show, because I can open up, but I certainly can't talk about this to the majority of people I know.
the world is a
Even in
strange
readings,
place.
I can't talk about that. Pardon me?
The world is a strange place. People don't believe things. But people are starting to believe things now because they're starting to see it on the mainstream news and stuff like that. They all think that there's UFOs and stuff like that, and things are taking it more seriously now. I think they will come, and I think they will show themselves, but I think it'll be a little longer yet, because I think they have to have the people there that believe in them to help them integrate into your society. Because if they just turned up in force, I think, well, people would be running about screaming and shouting and probably try to shoot at them. Dakota, what's your thoughts on that? What would happen if they just appeared one day?
Well, there's several people who claim to have government insiders, and I know everybody points to, CIA being the big bad that, behind all the assassinations and government takeovers, but even people within the CIA they know that it's coming, but they're genuinely afraid to see what happens because so many people still cling on to religion and their own ideals.
Yes, that's the problem.
I mean, just go on to social media nowadays to see how easy it is to set off a group of people. They're afraid that they're going to have a repeat of, like, back what happened in 2012 when NASA's having to put out statements saying, no, it's not the end of the world, because so many people were calling into them, basically saying, if the world's going to end, what's the point in me just sticking around?
Mm-hmm.
See, what's made it worse? What's made it worse is the movie industry for the younger generation, the ones that grew over the years to think that every alien is out to eat you. Right?
True.
Yeah.
Well, that situation, I think it was Rwanda, where a craft landed in
That's right.
a school the grounds. It's not a parking lot, I guess it would be a field. And the aliens came out, and there were about 6 or 7 of them, and they communicated with the children. And the children were tested and beyond tested, and they all drew the same things, even though they were in separate rooms. And it was like, we come in peace. And of course, we know that Rwanda is a war-torn country. And shortly after that happened, the Tutsis and the Sudis or whatever were killing themselves beyond description. I mean, they probably have a pretty good insight to how destructive the human is. And I think, something that I was amazed at was the Tic Tac situation with the SS Nimitz. Because there you've got, these trained naval captains and, people that are really, schooled in radar, and they could not explain what was going on. What they did say was that there was intelligence there because with all their might, and with the F-16 fighter planes, they cannot and could not bring a spacecraft down because, these guys are far beyond our capacity to, they reach, 5,000, speeds of 5,000 per hour. That goes beyond the speed of sound and light. So, I think there's something there.
Yeah.
Because that's on record.
Yes. I think it's like what's happened in Alaska last night. People are saying that it was a UFO. Look, this is my problem with that. The extraterrestrials that are visiting us now are extremely advanced, right?
Oh yeah.
Now, for them to allow that to happen, we don't have the weapon facilities to do that. If they have shot a UFO down, whoever owns that UFO has let it happen deliberately.
Yeah, deliberately. Yeah.
And it's maybe part of disclosure. It's maybe they're working with the Federation or whatever, and they've maybe decided, we'll put a ship in orbit and we'll turn the shields off, shoot it down, and that'll help you do disclosure. Maybe that's what they're doing. I don't know. But the technology these things have got, they've got ships that can travel under the water.
Oh, I know.
Thousands and thousands of miles per hour without. It's amazing.
Well, that was the thing with the Tic Tac, because they were trying to, clock these, and there were like 10 of them, and they were all in very intelligent formations, and they did go beneath the sea, and then they shot up. And that's what they can't understand. And we're hearing more and more about that, about UFOs that are actually going underwater. So there has to be a portal there as well to allow them entry into this dimension.
Have you ever thought about getting regression therapy? To see...
say the word before therapy, please.
Regression.
Oh, regression.
Regression. Yeah. Have you ever thought about doing it?
I don't really. I've had it done. I've had it done by somebody, and I don't need a person doing it because I've already been shown it.
Right.
I've been shown the lives that are particular to what I'm doing here. Some of them are not important, they've told me, but the ones that were crucial or critical have come to light. And that's done through meditation. You know, you can meditate and ask for the spirit realms to guide you through, a succession of lifetimes that are pertinent to the one today, to the one we live today. Yeah.
Do you think you've ever maybe played a part in an alien body?
It's very likely because to be this open, to be, just to align so much with it, I would have to say there has to be something, and this goes back thousands of years. I mean, ancient Egypt, it could be in Babylon, Chaldea, it could be Syria, it could be Damascus, any of those places, look at the art, in the 1500s. A lot of the Renaissance paintings show craft in the sky. Right. And, that was before planes and helicopters and all this stuff. And even Leonardo da Vinci, to come up with his ideas. Don't you think he was guided? His hand was guided by some alien encounter?
I think he's maybe witnessed something. And he's maybe been showing stuff deliberately. The same as Nostradamus, maybe he's been showing stuff. That if man keeps going on the road it's on, this is where it could go. It's maybe not come true, but it's where it could go if they keep on the road to go.
That's true. Yeah,
no, there's certainly a lot of evidence that says that maybe they didn't realize it at the time, but they had to get their ideas from somewhere, and Nostradamus in particular. Yeah. He wasn't against any form of experimentation to try to expand on his ability.
Yeah. That's right. That's very true. Yeah. And Galileo too, a lot of these thinkers that are way beyond, and then, being thrown in jail because his idea of, the way the solar system operates, it does move, and the church and state trying to quash whatever his belief was because what did it do? It threatened the establishment.
Exactly. That's what happened, and that's what happened in the days. You come out against the thing, and religion, the church especially, shut you down.
That's right.
Nostradamus was the same. Nostradamus would heal people with herbs and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
But the church hated him. The church absolutely hated him because he actually cured a lot of people. And it wasn't God's will.
I get into arguments a lot with a lot of the religious people.
Yeah.
Because I think this is what I do is, the dark side. And it's not. And I've told them, I said, I've told them many times that Jesus was the greatest psychic that ever lived.
Yes.
He foresaw his death. He told the woman at the well that she had 4 husbands. It goes on. He had abilities, and maybe he had an ET connection as well.
Yeah,
because
I think he did.
When he went to the mountain and he saw Elijah and the other, Elijah and 2 others that he saw, that could have been a UFO encounter where, they levitated him up and they communicated with him or gave him some other powers.
Yeah. Yes.
So there could very likely be, an ET connection there.
Well,
that would blow the
a lot of angels. A lot of the people thought were angels, but actually ETs.
Yeah, it's
possible. You've got a good theory about this. What's the theory you've got about this, Dakota? Was it Adam and Eve?
Oh,
it's actually quite interesting. Dakota's about who Adam really was. And
go ahead. Okay, go ahead, Dakota. Sorry, I thought, yeah.
Chris is getting awfully jumped up tonight from what I've noticed, but I'm not exactly sure which theory he's talking about, because one in particular actually caused some people to go receive some pretty intense harm to where they had to get help.
Yeah, I agree.
I think. I've always got to just. Oh, sorry, when you go.
No, I'd like to hear what you have to say.
No, all I've got to say is that in the Bible there's a lot of reference to a lot of UFO things, and a lot of what people witnessed in that.
A wheel.
Yes,
exactly. But exactly. I'm going to be, crucified for saying this, but the belief of Lobsang Rampa, who's a very evolved seer, was, and I tend to cotton onto this, is that I don't subscribe to Adam and Eve. I think the ETs planted various races here, and Earth. Yeah. The reason why they're visiting Earth so much is because this is their experiment, and it's like they know that if we blow this place to pieces, which I don't foresee happening, because I do believe in world without end, amen, but I feel that they're very concerned about, random acts. And in the past, there have been just about DEFCON 4s. And there are records that support the fact that the missiles that were fired they shot up with all intention of hitting a target, and they were dissipated by some unknown force. And there is even records that say that in the United States, I forget where exactly it is. It's one of the bases, the nuclear bases. They did some tests. And in one case, everything shut down. People saw lights in the sky. They saw what they thought were triangular objects, and they disappeared. And then those working for the government, and it wasn't NASA, it was something else, not the CIA, but some other agency that, is top secret. They said that they couldn't give an explanation for that. How all systems were shut down for no reason. They couldn't open anything.
Yeah.
And that was where, the ETs having, closely aligned with us, just to prevent a nuclear disaster, did it. I mean, I can't understand the Chernobyl. Because I would have thought they would have done something there, and it caused so much destruction. But maybe it wasn't as final as something as terrible as a nuclear strike, which Nostradamus predicts is going to come out of Iran. So, and it's going to go to New York.
Yeah. Cool.
That's what, by a long-range missile.
Well, Chernobyl, there wasn't exactly an incident where, it was a direct threat. Yeah, it was a threat to life, but it wasn't likely to spiral into more like
World War. Yeah, exactly.
By all accounts, a lot of the ETs up there, they said, if you're going to fight, you're going to stay in your corner. You come up here, we're going to have a problem.
Exactly.
It is funny you mentioned the nuclear labs. I actually had an aunt who was a technician at the nuclear lab here in Idaho, and she told me that UFO sightings were such a common occurrence that they would just look out the window, see them outside, wave, then go about their day.
Okay. Yeah, I can imagine.
Just look at Fukushima. Look at Fukushima before the earthquake.
Yeah. Nuclear meltdown. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The UFOs were off the scale. The UFO sightings were off the scale before the tsunami hit.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that they knew something was going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You ever find that curious that UFOs have got an awful weirdness? They turn up to places before something happens and after something happens, as if they're tourists wanting to see what happened.
Mm-hmm.
It's strange.
Well, they have insights, and maybe they do see the future, and I guess they can, because if they can go through time warps and get here, which is supposed to take, by human calculations, hundreds of thousands of years, and yet they can come in a soundbite. It tells you a lot about the intelligence and sophistication of their technology, that they're so advanced, so well beyond what we can even conceive of, that they can do things that certainly we just don't have the power. The Travis Walton thing was interesting. Fire in the Sky.
Yes, that was very interesting.
Remember that one? Because those guys were, they were just out looking at, or camping or doing something, or no, he was a tree feller or something like that. He was working for a company that cuts trees down and that, and he was taken for 4 days. So that would have been an interesting account.
I mean, the movie's horrific. Yeah, the movie's horrific when they wake up inside and stuff like that. I hope that never happens to me, but that was horrific, if that is what it was like.
Well, I've watched a few clips on Unsolved Mysteries, and that part is pretty terrifying, where, humans are taken against their will, and they're told, stop fussing. You know that we don't hurt you. We know you bring you back. We know that, we bring you back. And certainly they were all brought back, and carefully so. But there has to be a pattern. In a lot of cases, they've been taken before, even when they were like very young, and they might not have had clear memories.
It's maybe a generational thing. It's maybe like a generational thing that their mothers and their mothers been took. Yeah.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. There is a really good one on Unsolved Mysteries about that. So that would be, something to explore.
Can I ask you a little bit about the spirit world? How do you see the spirit world?
The spirit world.
Yeah.
I don't see the spirits. I feel them. So I'm a clairsentient.
Yeah, clairsentient.
I'm not, I guess clairvoyance is in seeing and clairaudient is in hearing.
Yes.
And I do hear. I definitely do hear, messages, etc.
Yeah.
But I don't see them in form. I don't see the silhouette. I feel. And when I feel, it's usually the crown chakra. It's up here. I feel sensations, or I just feel a presence in the room. But I don't see them. I don't actually see a form.
It's very interesting, because that's how I can see them too. That's how I feel them. It's hard for me. I don't see them. I can feel them. That's
I've asked, and they said, we don't want to, make you afraid. We don't want to cause you fear. But we're using a different platform to do it. We're using the agency of your extrasensory perception, and that is one of the senses is being able to feel. So I feel the vibration. And of course, when they come in a room, you can feel it because the chemistry changes. And you can just sort of get that sensation that there's something here.
I've noticed that the ETs share a similarity. Some of them share the same kind of feeling. You'll feel that something's around you, like a spirit, but they're a wee bit more. There's something to them. They're just different. Because obviously they're alive, they're not dead. There's just that factor with them. What do the spirits ever tell you anything about our little friends? Some of them are big ETs.
The ETs. The only thing that I do get from them is that, this is a reality, and it is part of the universe. It's part of the complexity of the universe, and there are many, many life forms, probably thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of different intelligences that we have. But whenever I've asked, and it's more curiosity, they always bring me back to focus on what you need to do here and now. As far as they're concerned, yeah, they are there and they do come through, and they have to follow cosmic law in order to come through. There's a system because there's a governance. And it's like somebody said to me the other day, like, who do you report to? And somebody said, we all have a boss, and they have a boss. So they have to report to a higher hierarchy of intelligence. So that's what I would think, is that, they don't want me to go too off onto another tangent somehow. They want me to focus in on what I'm here to do. So, yeah.
Definitely. I've noticed that in some of the paranormal investigations that I've been on, and as well as with some of the people we've networked with, that they go to try to ask questions about what it's like on the afterlife. And I've even gotten this from, relatives who have passed on. They're willing to tell me, say like my late grandfather, he passed of cancer. The first thing he obsessed over when he crossed over was that his hair grew back. So he was pretty happy about that.
Yeah.
But as far as like the real mechanics about how everything works on the other side, it's like you should remember you've been here before, and there's been incidents where I was in such a bad medical condition where I do remember kind of family reunions on the other side, but they happen in such an instant. But as far as actually how everything works over there, is like there's something over here that I will get in trouble if I tell you too much. So I was like,
you're very wise. Yeah. That's what they do to me too. They say, we're not going to tell you at this time. And I've had that happen where I've asked repeatedly about some things, and can you help me with this, or can you tell me? And they say it's not for you to know at this time. So, they are obedient to the voice that guides them, as I'm supposed to be obedient to the voice that guides me, the inner higher voice, higher intelligence, whatever you want to call it. But, and that is to do good, to do no harm, and to help people align themselves and not be fearful of the spirit realm, and not to negate the fact that we all have spirit helpers, energies around us that are trying to guide us or to signal things that, they want us to learn from. Now, when it comes to karmic lessons, that's when they keep their nose out of your business, because I've asked them many times, and I know I've done seminars with John Edward, and in my opinion, he's the best psychic around. He's the author of Crossing Over, and he had television shows, but, as soon as the producers told him, you got to get into more of the scary stuff, and he said, yeah, but that's not what I'm all about. That's when they canceled the series. I said to him, do you have any regrets? And he said, yeah, I'm psychic. Why didn't I see my mother's cancer? I could have saved her. She didn't have to die that young. And so, asking the energies about that, they say that there are certain lessons that we've come here to learn and to benefit from, to allow the soul to evolve. And, for that, they stay out of your way. And, the good, bad, and indifferent, because, certainly I've made a lot of mistakes and suffered for them. But what have they always say to me, ask yourself, what's the takeaway? What have you learned from it? Okay, well, I've learned to, not speak without thinking about what I'm going to say before I do, because I know once I commit it to the ethers, it's not going to just disappear. It's going to stay around and then float around, and, I can't take that back. So we have to be mindful of the lessons that we're here to learn. And that's why we have incarnated ultimately, is to perfect ourselves. We didn't get it right in the prior incarnation, but this is a chance for us to get it right in this dimension. And remember, we can't say, oh, well, I'll do it in the next dimension. It doesn't happen that way. What we need to do, we need to work on it in the here and now, because this is the advantage of the third dimension as opposed to the fifth or the sixth.
before we came here, we agreed to a kind of script of some kind that we must abide by. We must follow it. And if we go for it in any way, we probably need to come back and do it all over again until we get it right.
That's right.
That's
well, that often happens with suicide cases, is that they have to incarnate because they owe that time. Now, I was talking to a lady and she said, how could that 4-year-old die? How can a 4-year-old have cancer, a neuroblastoma, and die? And I said, the only thing that I can tell you, and it's not going to console you, is the energies have told me that soul owed 4 more years, 4 more earth years to complete a cycle. Maybe a realm of awareness of some kind, and they needed to pay back that 4 years.
Yeah,
it's not consolation to the parents, obviously, but when you look at it in a universal truth perspective, it makes sense.
Yeah, they've had to come back and experience it. That's what they were. It's like you're dying of cancer, but you kill yourself because you're afraid of dying a painful death. But then when you get to the other side, why did you kill yourself? But I was dying anyway. They said, no. You have to go back and you have to live through that amount of time.
Yeah.
Before you come back again.
A lot of the messages that I've been getting about, what are we here to do? You wouldn't believe it, but what comes through is we have to learn to love ourselves. I thought it was, my mission is to do da-da-da-da-da. No. It's to learn to love ourselves. And that seems to be the hardest thing to do because a lot of us have self-loathing, that we're disgusting, or we did a disgusting thing in a previous life. How could I have abandoned my children? How could I have taken that boat in the Titanic and let those poor people, that were screaming, please take us, not come on, We have a lot of recriminations, and we have to learn to forgive ourselves. And in forgiving ourselves, that's where the love comes in. Yeah. And with the ETs, that's a very difficult concept because I don't hear a lot about love with ETs. I don't hear a lot of, because I follow a lot of abductees and their reports. And, John Mack was such a foremost psychiatrist because he regressed a lot of abductees and learned tremendous things about what these people gleaned, while they were aboard a spacecraft or being, examined on the examination table and blood taken out or, an embryo planted and all this other stuff. And
some of the ETs are very loving. Some of them are. I know the ones that come to me are very loving, very caring. I don't know Zoe about this stuff because he's actually got quite an interesting story about it.
I'd love to hear it because I don't hear as much about that.
Well, it's honestly a story that's still kind of evolving. So, but the short version is, well, I have hybrid children with a Pleiadian woman.
Okay.
And from the work we've done, apparently I actually used to be an officer. Well, probably still am in a way. I'm still a little hazy on how that situation works. But my wife and I were both officers with the Galactic Federation.
Okay.
So we take incarnation cycles to kind of work from the ground floor type thing. So that's an oversimplification of it. But it is a situation where I was told that technically I'm not supposed to know, but the rules got bent in order to save my life down here to make sure I had a reason to still fight.
Yeah. Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
And it's just
what I was going to tell you is that part of what I do in readings is I look at people's past lives and I read their auras and whatever comes through for the highest good. But when I see you two and I was asking you questions like, how did you meet? What I'm getting with you two is that you've been together many times in previous lives, but what was coming through is soldiers. You the First World War, you were soldiers, and maybe perhaps in the Second World War, and you weren't related, but you were brothers in arms, and I think you were brought together somehow to open this discussion up, about the Galactic Alliance and all the ET stuff and the realms of spirit, things that are very science-based, but people, tend to push it to the side because it's just too overwhelming. But, I'm sure that you were together during the time of the Enlightenment where, if you were persecuted, if you, questioned the authority. Yeah. And I got the sense that both of you might have been either in England or France at some time where you were called to book, to account for, what do you mean by that? Or if you were challenging authority. And I see today here you've got this podcast where you're opening up the lines of communication where people are, barring hateful speech, we're talking about an interesting topic which happens to be real. But, you're not muzzled anymore. Do you know what I'm saying? So,
I mean, in my previous lives, I don't know who I was in my previous lives because obviously you forget.
Oh,
obviously
totally. Yeah.
But I do know I'm not originally from this plane. I'm not originally from this world. I'm from somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I knew him. I did know him but he's different species for me. He's, I think he's Palladian, to be purely honest with you.
Older than that.
But I'm for a different type of race. Elena actually talked about it last week. I do know what you're talking about. That maybe in my soul in this plane, maybe I was a soldier because I do have that kind of soldier kind of way about me. I have had readings before, and I have had people tell me you were a soldier, but you maybe know in this plane existence.
You might have been, warring against another empire that tried to overtake your planet.
Yes.
Yeah, and I would be open to that thought, sure. Yeah. But I think, you come with that armor with you, and you're fighting for freedom, and freedom to speak your mind and to say, look, I see it as this way, and, if you want to challenge it, fine, but this is my perspective.
Yeah.
Well, that certainly explains why we've been butting heads with certain people lately.
Oh, for sure. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I think we've got a long way to go. We've got a long, long way to go with the way the world is.
Yes.
And I don't think, when we're long gone, I think there'll be others in our place that you never know. We might be reincarnated again, made to come back here again.
Could be.
Or again. And I hope not, because I don't really want to come back, to be purely honest with you. But it's I would rather be born in a different world or something like that. But the world needs to wake up to the truth. So there's a lot of false stories out there now, and there's a lot of bad things happening to the world right now, and it needs to wake up soon. It needs to wake up soon before it's too late.
I'm going to tell you something before you close. I don't know if we've got time, but I've done seminars with James von Prague, and he said that he was part of an amalgamation that went to see the Phoenix Lights. Yeah. He lives in Laguna in California, but often he does these talks and that. And the lights had come, and even that senator who supported them, and then when he got rapped on the knuckles for being a kook, he denied it, which was so disgusted. I forget his name. He was the governor of Phoenix of Arizona.
I think I know what you're talking about.
I forget his name, but he did another just kidding and that kind of thing, and yet he saw them, he witnessed them, and he said, these are not the military, they're not our Air Force or anything like that. James von Prague went with this group, and they did a meditation, and they called on the ETs to come forward and identify themselves. And he made a connection by way of the 6 or 7 people present, where they raised the rate of vibration so powerfully that they were able to connect with one of the members of the ET, the craft that was hovering. And he identified himself as a Pleiadian. And the question was, why? What are you doing here? And they said that they're just checking on us. They're making sure that we're safe. And then to make sure, and I don't know what tests were done at that time. I mean, there's a lot of desert there, but there must be a lot of radioactivity. And, the red rock does draw a lot. It's a vortex, so it draws a lot of ancient powers there from the Zunis, Hopis, Apache Indians and such. Could have been a burial ground where they were. Yeah. But anyway, he conversed with the Pleiadian, and the Pleiadian said, tell me, you humans have a thing called love. And they said yes. And he says, well, why don't you use it? Why more? Why don't you use love? Why don't you use that facility, that emotion? We don't have it, but you do. And that can heal a lot of conflict in the world.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, he was right.
Yeah. Dakota?
Honestly, that is a very good point. That's been something I've been seeing myself with my own little contact experiments, is that my situation, I've gotten to people who have researched the UFO phenomenon for longer than I've been alive, and I tell them everything that's been going on with me, and they get shocked because the line of communication is so frequent that, well, it comes down to my kids, as much as I'm wanting to go up and see them, apparently they're wanting to come down and see me, and that's why they've tried to take the positions that they have, because that was their best chance.
Yeah.
But honestly, with that level of love, to where they've done the things they've done, to where they've practically brought me back from the dead because they got so concerned about me. Honestly, if humans actually express that and weren't just so easily manipulated into fear, which, let's face it, the situation in the world nowadays, it definitely does feel like something's trying to instill that in order to regain control. But if people really understood the beauty and all of it that's coming, we wouldn't have to worry about whether or not our loved ones are about to take their own life.
If only we could all love each other like we're meant to, this world would just be so amazing. No wars, no pollution. We'd probably all have better technology. We'd probably be among the stars right now if we'd started in the 1950s. If we'd started then.
Yeah. It's I think, with the ETs, I think it's the poisoning of the earth that concerns them the most, because they are taking samples of water. They're taking samples, the cattle mutilations and all that. They're taking samples of that. But something I was going to ask you about, if you ever hear about the binary code thing.
The Rendlesham Forest?
The 01001, that situation in that naval base there in England.
Rendlesham Forest,
something like that, where they were called out to, they saw lights, etc. And actually something really phenomenal happened, because when he got close to the craft, he saw the binary code on the craft that had landed, 01001, 01000, and that kind of thing. And that computes to something that I guess only a physicist would be able to answer. But
the UFO that went to Rendlesham Forest, I don't think it had any inhabitants, to be purely honest with you. I think it was automated. I don't know if it was a part of artificial intelligence. I don't think it was controlled. I think it was sent there for a reason. Maybe to spy on the base, or maybe to do something out of the ordinary. And I don't think it expected to meet those people, but then it did meet those people, and the only way it knew how to communicate was to use that binary. Because I think
they could have used a hologram to do that too, because the occupants apparently were not physical. They were they were like almost, they had different spirit bodies, or they used to call it ascension bodies, but they weren't physical. They weren't like flesh and blood. They were like
energy.
Opaque or something, because they saw them like they were simmering silhouettes. Because the guy said that his life was changed forever after that.
You got to remember at that time in the 1980s, at that time and stuff like that, in the 90s and stuff, it was kind of dangerous for them to come down, right? So a lot of the ships they would send were unmanned, right? And they maybe were somewhere near the moon when they were controlling them, right? And you know look what happened to Roswell. Look what happened to the little guy that, well, his friends died and the rest of them, you know. That's where we get our technology from. That's where all this technology comes from. All back engineered. And
of course. The Harrier.
I don't know. I don't know the way the future's going to land, but hopefully it'll get better soon. You know.
Yeah, all those prototypes are somewhere in a hangar in Area 51.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. They've been stripped down and re-engineered. I can possibly say that. Dakota, before the end of the show, would you like to say anything?
No, I do want to say thank you for coming on, Patricia, and thank you to your friend Monica for filling out the form.
Oh, yeah.
To help get you. She definitely seemed to be interested by our interview with Elena Dana.
Loved it, yeah.
Elena's an amazing person.
She's helped us out with a lot of our own exploits, and it turns out apparently I met her before I came to Earth.
Of course.
There's some days I still wish that saying stuff like that landed me in a straitjacket.
You can still end up there.
Yeah, exactly.
You know. Well, I do want to say thank you for coming on tonight. It definitely
thanks for having me.
It definitely gives you something to think about, you know? That's honestly, I love when we have these types of episodes where you can't help but stop and think about everything that got brought up. And honestly, if anybody wants to check her out, for those of you watching this through video, there's her website right there. It should be in the description for all on the audio side of it.
Yeah, and I'll be on Virgin Radio on February 14th at 7:30. I think it is 7:35 with Nira and Holly Ryan, and I'm going to be talking about twin flames and soulmates for Valentine's Day. I've been on the radio quite a bit, that particular station, but with COVID I wasn't able to because you know they were very, very careful. But I usually go on Halloween, and after this one I'm going to tell them that I'm going to do something on indigo children. So we'll see how that is.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
And I'll need to listen to that when it's out. Yeah. Well, I would like to thank you for coming on. And Dakota, do you have any news about tomorrow night? What we're talking subject tomorrow night?
Well, being that we've had so many new people come on board, I thought Chris and I should finally take an episode where we answer some of the questions we constantly get, so that way, you know, people can actually understand, you know, how we work a little bit more. And I don't know, being that we started doing the pre-recorded format, maybe that's something we should maybe do like every other month, you know, just to kind of address questions, just so people know we're not ignoring them. We just had to rearrange things, you know, in order to make things a little easier on us. That's all it is, people.
We do get a lot of questions and stuff, so we'll answer. We'll do our best to answer them tomorrow. So I would like to say again, thank you, Patricia. And the links are in the chat, guys. Could you please check her out? And thank you very much. And I hope you're well in your interviews in Virgin. That'll be very interesting, that.
Yeah. I was happy to be on.
Yeah. And we'll have to have you back sometime.
Love
Thank you very much for coming. So, catch you all later, dudes, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Okay, bye-bye.
Stay safe out there.
Yeah.